So there's some people that like surf on the Great Lakes and some people that surf like on waves created by oil tankers. I mean, there's all kinds of interesting waves you can ride. Every big wave spot is kind of unique. Like Tahiti, for an example, it's an outer reef and it's kind of shaped in like a horseshoe. And then it drops off to like really, really deep water. So when you get these like huge swells that come, it goes from deep water and then it hits this really shallow reef really quickly. And so the energy of that creates this like really intense wave. Big waves, exciting stuff.
So what is a big wave? Well, first of all, big really isn't a proper word to describe them. They're gigantic. Technically, a big wave is anything over 20 feet tall. But these waves can be 20, 40, 60 feet on the face. The biggest wave ever surfed was 80 feet tall. That's equivalent of a 16-story building. These waves are so big that surfers can't paddle up the face of them in time to ride them. They have to get towed to the top by someone riding a jet ski. Hawaii, like with all things in this sport, is where big wave surfing all started. And fittingly, that's where Keala started as well.
Like, it's funny because when people ask me, oh, like, do you remember your first wave? I'm like, no. My mom was pregnant surfing with me at like 6 months. So like pre-birth, I was already surfing. Does that count? I've always been surfing for as long as I can remember. It's just always been a part of my life.
Keala's been surfing competitively since she was just 8 years old, but it wasn't until she was older that she tried to surf her very first big wave.
The first time I was like, oh my God, this is like a really big wave. I remember just being really excited. You know, I could feel like all the energy of the swell. And I wanted to go out and watch. And then I was like, oh, I wonder if I'd give it a try. I knew somebody that was coming in and I was like, hey, can I borrow your board? Like maybe, how is it out there? Do you think I could do it? And he's like, well, if you break it, you buy it. So I went out and towed into 2 really big waves and I think this is really cool and special and I want to explore this some more.
Well, she makes it sound so fun and exciting, but this is how the New York Times described that day. Barrels the size of the Holland Tunnel. If the Holland Tunnel morphed and whirled like the vortex eye of a crystalline blue tornado that happened to be spinning within a few feet of hard, razor-sharp coral. Sounds scary, but Keala was hooked.
Yeah, the feeling when you like drop into or ride out of a really massive wave, it's just such a rush of adrenaline. It's really hard to describe. Certain senses get really heightened, like your sense of sight, your sense of touch, and then the other senses that you don't really need. Like I never smell anything when I'm dropping into a big wave, and I feel like even like your hearing gets kind of muffled. You have this massive wave crashing behind you, and it, to other people it probably sounds like somebody throwing a Mack truck off a building behind you, but because your other senses are so heightened that it's just kind of muffled, you don't really hear it. Feeling really intense fear, being able to overcome it and then triumph over it is a very intoxicating feeling. And that feeling is why I do it.
Big wave surfers are serious athletes, and Keala is 100% committed to her sport. She has to be. First of all, sometimes those waves can carry her to shore on the ride of her life, but sometimes they crash into her with the weight of every mile they've traveled from an ocean away, literally putting her life on the line.
I had a really bad one last year in the Piahi Challenge where it was the finals, and I got all of a sudden the biggest set of the day rolls in, and it's like probably like 60 feet on the face, and it's gonna land right on top of me.
At these big wave events, there are extra safety precautions in place. But on this one day, Keala had fallen in the path of a giant beast of a wave and had none of those precautions left for her.
I realized I was completely out of CO2, so I'm wearing this inflation vest that's completely useless, and I'd also broken my leash. So now I'm not attached to my surfboard. I have no CO2 left in my inflation vest, and I'm just going, oh my God, I'm gonna die. And I got one of the worst probably beatings of my life, and like held down underwater for a really long time. And I remember seeing stars underwater and just thinking like, I'm gonna be on the, I'm gonna be fish food on the bottom of the ocean, and that's gonna be my outro, and that's terrible, But I somehow managed to fight my way back up and get a breath of air and survive it. That situation probably should have killed me, and I thought it was going to, but it didn't, and I was able to survive through it. So it just goes to show you, like, you're so much stronger than you think, and you are capable of handling so much more than you think.
Imagine that. Just doing the thing she loves to do almost killed her. But to be the best big wave surfer in the world, she had to push herself to the limits. She had to brave the whirling vortexes. Yeah, Keala's courage and resolve defines what it means to be a big wave surfer. If you want to ride in incredible waves that are dangerous and scary and can hurt you, you need to be fearless, right? You can't worry about whether or not there are sharp rocks on the bottom, or if you're going to crash and burn, or whether or not you belong on this giant mountain of a wave. You just have to do your best to stay afloat and surf. And that's what Keala did. And ultimately, her determination paid off. Remember that first big wave that Keala ever surfed? Well, she was the first woman to ever surf there. And in 2017, she became the first woman in history to be invited to the Eddie Aikau Big Wave competition. The Eddie is the oldest and most prestigious big wave event in the world. It's named after the famous Hawaiian surfer Eddie Aikau, who rescued over 500 people while working as a lifeguard for Waimea Beach. The contest is only held when the waves are 60 feet tall, at minimum. So it is a really big deal here, especially in Hawaii.
I remember being a little girl and thinking like, oh, but I could never compete in that. And then I got invited, and that was just something that I just never even thought was possible or would happen in my lifetime. And so then when it actually happened, and then it was like I was the woman, like I was the one, that was just like really special moment.
Today, Keala is inspiring a whole new generation of surfers that are willing to push the limits of fear and what we're capable of just so they can surf. And her message to them is really simple.
I think if I could speak to my young self, it would just be like, don't, just gotta hang in there. I know it's super tough, and it feels like you are literally fighting an uphill battle just to exist in the world, but you're gonna find your place, and you're gonna inspire so many other people. And, just stick to your guns, because you're gonna do amazing things and have incredible experiences, and it's gonna be great. So you gotta roll with the punches, kid.